Hey guys, welcome back. Today I was supposed to be doing a video tutorial on how to paint up some Blightlord Terminators. Unfortunately, after finishing up the models, I decided to give them a coat of matte varnish and they went completely frosted. Not sure if I didn't shake the bottle hard enough or the temperature was too low, but they were completely ruined. I tried to recover them with some gloss varnish, but to no avail. I'm kind of gutted about it, as they were looking pretty nice before I ruined them with the matte varnish. But it is what it is, so we move on. So today I thought instead of doing the Blightlord Terminators, I would do some Blood Angel Terminators. After painting up the red cape in my last video, I really started to enjoy using the cool red Army Painter Triad. And it got me thinking that it would be a really nice colour for painting up some Blood Angels. And that's what I'm going to be painting up today. So let's get into it. So starting from a black base coat, I gave the entire model a coat of Army Painter Terrestrial Titan, which is a really great base colour for the cool red Triad. And from there we're just going to start to highlight up using the Army Painter Cool Red Triad. Starting off with the darkest colour, which is Basilisk Red. And I'm just going to be airbrushing this on in a zenithal style, spraying from the top and at 45 degrees, which is going to leave some of that nice dark purple in all of the recesses. Next up, I'm going to be switching to the Dragon Red, but this time I'm only going to be applying it to the very top of the model. And this way it's going to highlight all of the upward facing surfaces in this slightly brighter red. And there would also be nothing wrong with applying these paints using a dry brush or a stippling method. The end result would be slightly different, not quite as smooth, but slightly more of a grim dark look. And I'm then going to go in with the brightest colour, which is Blood Chalice. And I'm just going to apply this in a similar fashion to the previous layer. Sprayed from above, but this time trying to cover a slightly less surface area. Now that the armour's been completed, it's time to work on some of the other parts of the model. I firstly repainted the gun back up in black, and then went in with some Army Painter gun metal, And I used this to paint in all of the Aquillas and emblems, the barrels of the gun, the cabling on the arms, and the kind of vents on the back and the mouth of the model as well. And this should just take one coat to get a nice smooth coverage. And after that I just quickly painted in the bullets in the gun, and I used Army Painter Greedy Gold, but any gold would do here. And I then used 3 of the colours from the Army Painter Deep Green Triad to paint in and highlight up the stamps on the purity seals, and then used Army Painter Ancient Stone just to paint up the remaining paper portion of the purity seals. And I also used this same Deep Green Triad to paint in the eyes of the model, and also the lenses on the shoulder mount. And the final step before we move on to the shading part of the process is to apply a quick edge highlight of Army Painter Deep Grey to all of the edges on the gun. And I just do this so that the final result doesn't look too flat, as if you don't edge highlight it, it won't have any volumes or highlights and it'll look a little bit strange. Now that all the parts of the model have been painted, it's time to start the shading process. And to do that, I'm going to be using Mr. Weathering Multi-Black Pigment, along with the Mr. Weathering Solvent. But if you don't have the Mr. Weathering Pigment, or can't get a hold of it in your country, you can always just use a black oil wash, which you can make yourself using black oil paint and some odourless white spirits. And this will give you pretty much exactly the same thing as the Mr. Weathering Multi-Black Pigment. And you just want to apply the Mr. Weathering Pigment or your oil wash to the entire model, making sure you cover all parts. And after leaving that for around 10 minutes, it was dry to the touch. So I just used a combination of various sized makeup sponges, dipped in a little bit of the solvent or the white spirits, And then just use this to wipe away all of the excess oil pigment from all of the raised surfaces on the model. And this should uncover all of the previous highlights and colours, while darkening all of the shadows and recesses. And the key here is to always be gentle when you're trying to remove the excess oil pigment. Never try and scrub the surface of the model, as if you do, you will remove the previous layers of paint. Instead, just be nice and gentle with it, and if there are any stubborn areas, then just use a little bit more of the solvent or white spirits, and eventually it will remove all of the pigment. And you just need to work your way around the model, hitting all of the raised surfaces until you're happy with the way it looks. And after the cleanup process is finished, all that's left to be done is to base the model. And I just used some leftover resin bases that I had. However, in the future, if I am to paint any more Blood Angels models, I'm going to try and paint up some nice blue frosty snow bases, which would contrast really nicely with the red Blood Angel armour. But that's for another day. But as for this process, it was really quick and easy, and I think in total it took me about 1 to 2 hours to complete the entire model. And I think it would look pretty good if you batch painted up an entire army of Blood Angels using this process. But that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.